here. I would like to keep this as interactive as possible. Please ask questions. I'm by myself to moderate this, so I might miss some stuff, but I'll do my best to keep my eyes on the chat and on the Q&A, but don't be shy. All right, so let's just get this started. So thank you for joining us. We're doing, our session is about how to boost your business reputation. We looked at data across 2023, and I'm here to share with you what we found. So a little bit about me. My name is Melatia, as I mentioned earlier. I'm the Vice President of Marketing here at GatherUp. I've actually been doing digital marketing since 1997. It's been a long time. When I first started, SEO was all about keyword stuffing. We had Excite, Lycos, Ask Jeeves. I've seen Yahoo be the dominant player in the market and then see their rise and fall. And then I've seen Google become the big giant in the market. I'm actually really interested in seeing how generative AI is going to change the landscape when it comes to search and findability and local marketing. So that's a little bit about me. I wanted to tell you a little bit about GatherUp. So we are a reputation management platform. And actually, I'm just going to grab my notes. I'm sorry, folks. We are really your partner in turning your customer's voice into customer loyalty. We're here to help businesses listen, understand, and engage their customers to grow their business. We work with a lot of digital agencies like yours and also other types of organizations like multi-location and single locations. They all have in common the fact that they serve a local community or a local business, that they are in one place. And what's great about our platform is if you're a digital agency, you can actually white label our platform so that it looks like it's your tool and it can fit within your ecosystem of do it for you or do it for yourself, tools that you offer to your customers. In addition, it's just a great way to diversify your offering without having to necessarily add headcount because you can sell the service and make some supplemental money on it. If you have questions on that, I'd be happy to answer your questions after the presentation. Also, we are trusted by thousands of agencies and businesses, really proud that we have obtained our G2 certification. Again, we've had it for several years. And one thing that's really important is I want you to notice that on this logo slide, we actually don't have any digital agencies in there. And we say we have thousands of agencies, but there's a reason for that. It's because we're their secret weapon. Because we're white labeled, you don't know that it's us. And so they don't want to share that they're using our platform. And that's fair enough because it's part of their entire package when it comes to SEO, SEM, and local marketing. But we do also have great multi-location businesses, franchises, and single locations that trust us to manage their reputation through our platform. All right, so enough of the advertising here. Let's just dive into the presentation. So if you're here today, you understand that public perception is the most important tool that you have when it comes to online marketing. We're all competing for visibility. We're all competing for foot traffic. And it's especially important for restaurants, doctors, insurance brokers, HVAC companies, any company that offers a service that is of high value or is repetitive in nature. So how important is this? There has been so many surveys that have been done by many vendors in the market, but here are just a couple of the really salient numbers that you should retain. So 99% of shoppers read reviews online. Now, I don't know who that 1% is, if they live under a rock or don't have a phone, which is entirely possible. I would venture to say that it's a lot closer to 100%. Most people, if not all people, read reviews online before engaging with any business. You do this when you order on Amazon. You do this when you do a search for something near you. If you're looking for a doctor, first thing that you do is you go to your help desk, which is Google, and you ask the question, what's the best options for me? Although some folks have started using generative AI for that, which is interesting too. But the thing is everybody looks at it. The other really interesting fact is that a whopping 96% of people look at negative reviews to assess a business. So if you actually listened in at our back to school session, we had a session with their media with Mike Blumenthal and David Mim, and they said in their observation in looking at European searchers looking for hotels, they actually would look at negative reviews to disqualify the choices that they have. So narrow the choice pool that they have, because analysis paralysis is really a big thing here. So that's really interesting. Also, I don't know about you, but I find it very dubious when a company has perfect scores, like all 5 stars or 100% satisfaction rating. There's something weird about that. I don't know about you, but my pinky's like, something's wrong here. Nobody's perfect. I'm certainly not perfect. Every business will have at some point some kind of slip up. So this is sort of the conundrum. You don't want a perfect score, but you also don't want to have a lousy score, because then people will completely ignore you. So how do you strike a balance when it comes to your reputation? The other really important component here is, and this is from Uberall, I'll bring him back further into the presentation, but star ratings matter a lot, even if it's on a score on 5. Having a 0.1 rating greater than your peers in the local pack or in any comparative website will increase your conversion rate by 25%. So when we're talking about conversion rate, we're talking about phone calls, we're talking about website visits, we're talking about footfall in the business. That's big. So you're competing for visibility, you're competing for trust, you're also competing against your peers. So how do we break through from this? Well, we decided to look at our own database, and we looked at 23,000 businesses in 2023. I think I'm actually skipping ahead on a slide, but that's fine. And our hypothesis was, are businesses that treat their reputation in a proactive fashion, meaning they solicit reviews and feedback actively, do better than those that passively request feedback. So passively receive it. They don't necessarily look for it, but they will take the time to listen, monitor, and respond. So is there a difference there? Just to go over my sample size here, 23,000 businesses across all kinds of sectors, all English-speaking countries, majority from the US, but we do have some samples out of the UK, Australia, New Zealand, and Canada. Next year, when we reprise this research, I actually want to give you the differences by country, but for this one, for the sake of this research, we kept it high level. I'm hopeful we'll be able to click down. But behavior when it comes to online reputation seems to be fairly similar across. So another important point for you to know is, out of the 23,000 businesses that we looked at, about half of them don't proactively solicit reviews, which is interesting. They do use the product to listen and respond to reviews, though. They might passively receive feedback through a widget on their website. So it's not that they don't get it, it's just that they're not proactive in getting it. So what did we find out? Well, this is going to sound a little bit obvious, but if you ask for reviews, you're going to start getting them. And I know it feels a lot like Captain Obvious here telling this to you, but the numbers are really, really staggering. It's not just a small difference, it's a really big difference. So when you start asking for reviews proactively to your customers, you can double, more than double, the quantity of feedback and reviews that you get. But this is across all industries. This is across all of the 23,000 businesses. Now, the results are even more staggering if we look by sector. Healthcare, insurance, and legal, amazing. We're talking about 6 to 12 times more feedback given if they take the time to solicit that feedback. So these numbers here are average by location. So we have organizations that have a lot more and organizations that have a little bit less, but really this is an average across, and it's staggering. For healthcare, if you're passive in your reputation management, you'll get about 40 pieces of feedback within the year. But if you're proactive, that can go all the way up to 500, which is big. Now, what that tells me for businesses like healthcare, insurance, and legal is these are really considered purchases. When it comes to your health, really important, it's your health. You know, you have your health or you don't. And so you want to find a doctor or a medical professional that can help you, and you care about how they're perceived in the market and how good they are at their jobs. And of course, leaving feedback is important because you seek that feedback when you look for this service. Same thing for insurance because it's protecting your life, your goods, right? And these are not small purchases. These are purchases that cost a lot of money and build up over time. And then legal and law, these are also expensive services. These are services that you might not engage in all the time, unless you're highly litigious, I guess. But if you're going through a divorce, if you're having to restructure sort of your will, or if you're going through, you know, a changing of a house, deeds, and all of this stuff, having access to a good notary or a good lawyer is really important. And so giving reviews and looking at reviews is really important for those. Now, it looks a bit less impressive when we're looking at restaurants, storage, and transportation, but it's still a lot. And that is important because folks, you know, if we think about how rankings work on third-party websites, the quantity of these reviews and the freshness of the reviews have a lot to do with your position there. So keep that in mind. Quantity matters a lot. So another important tidbit of information is, according to Moz, the simple act of asking for a review will make it that about 1 out of 2 of your customers will gladly help you and give you feedback. That's important. Don't be afraid to ask. Like, if you have fear of rejection, don't have fear of rejection. Soliciting feedback shows that you are actually interested in improving your business and getting better. And that matters a lot. This actually has a big knock-on effect that I'll talk about in a moment. So let's talk. So the numbers were really big, and I keep talking about feedback and reviews, and let's pick them apart. So GatherUp, what we do is we do 2 types of feedback. We do first-party feedback, which is direct feedback to you, the business owner. And this feedback is first party. So you own that feedback, that belongs to you. And that actually has a lot of power when it comes to SEO, because you can mark that up with schema on your website. And we happen to have a widget that does this. And this will actually weigh in and might be displayed in the SERPs, so the search engine results page, alongside your ads or even your organic listing. So that's an important consideration to have. Plus, you can use the content from these third-party reviews, the first-party reviews, sorry, as your own. You can display that on specific pages as if it's about specific services, because these are reviews that your own customers have given to you. Third-party reviews, we're talking about Google business profiles, we're talking about Yelp, we're talking about booking.com, we're talking about all of these aggregator websites that gather reviews. Those are important too. They play a big part in driving revenue and business, but they're not unique to you. They're not unique content on the web. They play an important role and will drive business, but they're different. So in the numbers that I spoke about previously, we're looking at the total volume. We're looking at first and third party reviews. So we took the time and we dove in and looked at, okay, well, what's the impact in solicitation when it comes to first versus third party? The numbers here are pretty telling too. I only have a portion of the numbers in my slides here. The rest is in the ebook. It's all there for you to look at though. So if we look by location, so bearing in mind, asking first party, asking third party. So I'm asking for feedback directly to my business, or I'm asking you to leave a review on a website for me. When it comes to first party feedback, healthcare gets a ton. And that is really important because patient experience matters a lot. And that information can be transformative for your business. And if you're using the right tool, if you get a lot like these 400 feedback pieces on average that a location would get in 2023, our tools actually allow you to aggregate and look at what the major themes are so you can apply the changes within your business. There's also a big impact on third party. It still almost doubles the number of reviews that you would get on a third party website if you solicit. So it might not be as impressive as first party, but that's still important. That's more reviews than your peers. The same for insurance, although if the number is not that big, it's not a huge leap, it's more in the 40% range, but that's 40% more still. And then for legal, really interesting, lots of first party feedback. There is an increase. We're talking at roughly I'm going to say roughly 20–25% increase on third party reviews for legal and law. And then also big impact on storage and transportation. You'll notice we're not talking about restaurants and we're not talking about, I already forget the other category, but you can look at that in the ebook. All right, how's everybody doing so far? How's my pacing? Am I talking through this the right way? If somebody just wants to drop me a quick note in the chat, just making sure that everybody's following along and that it's clear. Of course, if you have questions, please ask. I'm happy to answer your questions as I go. Okay, it's looking like everything is good. Thank you so much. All right, so what's the best way to get feedback? Timing is everything. You'll notice that when you leave the doctor's office, if they say, hey, by the way, we're going to send you a request to leave me feedback or leave us feedback, check your email or check your SMS. Managing their expectations and letting them know that this is coming will have a deep impact in your success in getting more reviews. Also, make sure that you meet them where they are. So again, I'm talking about that phone. Everybody or almost everybody has a phone, SMS, email. They have them on them. If you make it easy for them to answer, if it's not like a long paragraph that they have to leave in, they have to just select a number or a star rating, and then they can give you more details, that makes it really easy for them to answer. And they can do this on the fly. They can do this on the go. If they're on the bus or, if they're picking up their kids from daycare or any other context, it's easy to leave you a review, but you have to manage their expectations, let them know, and meet them where they are. And don't be afraid to remind them. There's actually some benefits to doing that too. I'll cover that later. All right, so our second finding is just asking for feedback makes people feel good about your business. It gets your NPS and your ratings up. Isn't that interesting? Now, my thinking behind this is if you take the time to ask for feedback, people feel that you care. Now, you ask for feedback and you do nothing about it. At some point, your customer will get really jaded and not have that positive sentiment towards you. But if you sincerely want to look for feedback and getting, being able to get better in your business and apply changes that will transform your business, your customers are really happy to help you with that. And it will just make them feel great about doing business with you and sharing you this insight. Now, I want to differentiate what an NPS and a star rating is. So NPS, you may or may not be familiar with it. We have a lot of great content on it on our website, but I like to think of Net Promoter Score as sentiment over time. When your customer transacts with you often and you do business with them often, this is how they feel about your business overall. You're building trust and equity in that relationship. And having a great NPS score actually helps build a forgiveness mechanism in your customer when things aren't perfect, when they have a less than stellar experience at a specific moment. They'll be like, oh, okay, well, this was a little bit off, but generally I feel really good about your business. So NPS really matters. It also is a great predictor of how much business you'll make and the retention that you'll have with your customer. And I love NPS because there's a follow-up question that you can ask that is the kicker, which is, why did you give us that score? And those answers will reveal lots of great, meaty insights. It could be a great kudos, but it could also be some tiny little thing that if you address will make a big difference for those that might not feel so good about your business. Now, talking about star ratings, we like to think of star ratings as point in time. So it's how was your dining at our restaurant like yesterday? That's a point in time request. How was your interaction at the doctor's office? How did you find your interaction with our support agent? Those are star ratings. That is also really important. Now, it's interesting that reputation-related websites that aggregate use star ratings. It's a simplified matrix. People like to have clear numbers. You know, if you're giving like a 95% NPS, people are a bit taken aback. What does that mean? But people really understand the concept of the 5 stars. So really interesting. We looked at, of the 23,000 that proactively requested feedback, they consistently scored higher NPS than their industry peers. We searched the web high and low to find, okay, well, great. Healthcare has 73. Is 73 a high NPS? Yes, it is, because their peers have 58. And I would imagine that 58 is a mix of those that proactively manage their reputation and those that don't. So that's a big lift right there. Now, another really important thing to know is Bain and Company did some research and revealed that if you have a 12-point increase in your NPS, that can double your company's growth rate. And you can find this, I actually have this in the research piece. You can find the specific article. Harvard Business Review also has stats saying that higher NPS score in your sector, in your industry, actually allows your business to grow 2.5 times faster than your competitors. So caring matters and goes a long, long way. Now, if we look at insurance, also a huge increase in NPS. Same for restaurants. All industries seem to benefit. Actually, on average, we notice that our customers that use the proactive feedback mechanism experience a 50% higher NPS than their peers across their industries. So that's very telling. Taking the time to listen, to apply, and to transform your business goes a long, long way. Now, let's talk about star ratings, because star ratings is what we probably are fighting for when we're talking about reputation management. It's how am I doing on Google? How am I doing on Booking.com? How am I doing on Yelp? Star ratings are higher for those that actually solicit. And 0.1 might seem small, right? Going from 4.3 to 4.6 might seem tiny, but remember that 0.1 that 0.1 star rating translates into a higher conversion rate. May it be phone calls, website visits, foot traffic. Again, impact across the board. Insurance and restaurant, oddly enough, not a big difference. So what's going on there? Well, you'll have to read the report to get the nitty-gritty. All right, so how can you leverage this? How can you make sure that your feedback loop is working for you? Well, just apply this flywheel. Think about it as be authentic. If you're going to look for feedback, if you're going to ask people to leave a score or a rating, be genuine and sincere in getting that feedback. If you're going to ask for it, be prepared to see the good, the bad, and the ugly, and accept it. If you only ask, so the other step is being democratic. So if you only ask your happy customers how they feel, you end up in an echo chamber. You end up listening to like the perfect fit, the right people, but you have no opportunities to improve. And you're leaving by the side potential business. And unhappy customers can do more damage to your brand than happy customers. So be mindful of that. Take the time to ask. And if they're not happy, take the time to respond. Now, sometimes you'll get feedback that just doesn't align with your business. If you're McDonald's and somebody says, I would really love to have this as a sit-down restaurant experience. Well, it doesn't align with the business model. This is a fast food chain. It's a restaurant that you go in, go out. Setting up a table, having wait staff makes no sense on the economics here. So of course, but take the time to say, hey, that just doesn't align with what we do. That's it. But at least taking the time to explain can allow the customer to decide, okay, well, is this a fit for me? If it's not, I'll go somewhere else. Or, oh, okay, well, then I'll accept that it's just something that I cannot change. And yeah, just make sure that you also apply it, right? Get the feedback, apply it. And if you don't, let them know why. And don't just respond to negative reviews, respond to positive reviews. Remember when I talked about the fact that people look for negative reviews? How your business handles the negative review is really important because that demonstrates your customer service. And I would warn against those that just fall into a canned, I'm sorry you feel that way, call this number, or, I'm sorry you feel this way, email us. That's fine. But try and personalize and vary. People will recognize when it's the same templated answer that is like said every single time. Same for happy reviews, like thanks for your review. That's nice. But if you're repeating the same thing over and over again, doesn't have the same impact. So how do you overcome this tedium? Well, go for a platform that actually does a good job of proposing, helping you scale, right? Have you listen and propose through AI some responses, but avoid getting canned, avoid repeating the same thing over and over again, and avoid over automating. So our third finding is if you want to meet people where they are, use both SMS and email. They perform a lot better together than alone. And the numbers speak for themselves. For every 100 SMS sent through a platform, 20 reviews were generated. For every 100 emails sent through a platform, 15 reviews were generated. When you combine both, and you can set up a workflow to do this for you, you get 26 reviews per 100 emails and SMS sent. Again, it's all about meeting folks where they are, making it really easy to leave you feedback or a review. And that's it, just great timing. So review generation is really dependent on convenience and expectation setting. Make it a part of your whole company's DNA. Solicit the feedback, look for it, apply it. We even got great coverage on Search Engine Journal from one of our good friends, Miriam Ellis, saying that reputation management is really a practice in CX. And I couldn't agree more with her. If you solicit feedback and act on it, you actually are looking to deliver a much better customer experience. So the three big findings, of course, Captain Obvious has to say, well, receiving starts with asking, so ask. Don't wait for people to come to you with their feedback. Being curious buys goodwill off of your customers, and leverage the channels that you have and manage their expectations by saying, I will be contacting you by email. I will be contacting you by SMS. It's really central to reputation management. And if we think about how people make decisions today, the fact that almost everybody looks at reviews before engaging with any type of audience, whether it's in person, online, even on Amazon, they look at reviews. I look at reviews. I'm sure you look at reviews, even when it comes to buying shampoo, toothpaste, booking an appointment with a doctor, finding an optometrist, finding a dentist, buying insurance. But to differentiate, you need to have quantity of reviews, not just a handful of them, but many, a lot. Recency is important. It has to be fresh. It has to be recent. 200 reviews from 2 years ago doesn't tell me what your business is all about today. And have accepting the fact that you may have positive or negative feedback, and that's okay. The feedback is important. It's what you do with it and how you publicly also interact with it. Don't get emotional if you're not in agreement with somebody leaving you a bad review. Handling it with grace will go a long way because everybody else will have their eyes on that as they think about whether or not they want to do business with you. So I'm inviting you to download the full report using this QR code. I'm open for questions. I guess I went through this presentation a bit faster than I thought. We had 45 minutes planned. Is there anything I can answer for you? I'd love to hear your thoughts here. Did you learn anything today? What was your biggest takeaway? Do you want to leave that in the chat for me to see? I'm just going to grab a sip of water. It was crystal clear. I was that good. Well, I'm very happy to hear it was that good. Again, I invite you to get the full report. If you've enjoyed this webinar, I would love to hear from you. Yes, NPS, sentiment over time. Absolutely. It's the goodwill, the equity that you're building with your customers. Sure, I'm happy to talk about NPS. So Net Promoter Score has been invented by a company that I forget their name. I'm very sorry about that. But if you look it up online, you'll find all kinds of information about it. But really, it is the simple question. I'm sure you've all answered it at least once in your lifetime. And it's on a scale from 1 to 10. And the question is, on a scale from 1 to 10, 1 not at all, or 0 not at all, 10 absolutely, how likely are you to recommend us to a friend or a colleague? It could be a friend, family, peer, depending on the type of service that you have. Adapt that question a little bit. And essentially, the score number is the percentage of people that love you. And those are people that give you scores of 9 and 10, minus the percentage of people that are very unhappy. So folks from 0 to 6, and that's your number. So the right words to use when you ask for a review, that's actually a good question. So I'll just finish the NPS. So when I think about NPS, and I use NPS quite a bit in my job every day, even in product marketing. So I'll ask a question like, how likely are you to recommend us to a friend or a colleague? That number, so if you're looking at the number and you're feeling discouraged because it feels low, what really matters, your fans, of course, those that give you the 9 and 10, those are great. But I like to think of the 7s and the 8s, those that are neutral, right? That won't recommend you off the bat if somebody's looking for a service like you, but they're, pretty content. If you can move those folks to 9s and 10s, you're winning. And if you can move folks from 1s and 2s up to 3 and 4 and 4 and 5s up to, 5 and 6, you're gaining. You're getting great sentiment. So I hope that answers your question. We do have great blog articles on it. I actually probably should be doing a webinar just on NPS scores in general. Would people like to see this? Do you want to just vote on that? Okay, let me look at the next chat question here. What are the right words to use when you ask for reviews? So we actually have a guide that gives you some templates, but simple language, very quick, tell us how we did, or tell us what you think. Of course, it needs to align with your brand and your brand experience, but if you keep it simple, conversational, and make it easy for folks within the email or the SMS to choose a rating or to leave a number, that way, and then you follow in with the next question, which is, why did you give us that score? That's how you're going to get it. I think, and this is something in direct marketing from my background from a long time ago, yes, how you ask is super important because it will make a big difference on the quantity. But think of your audience as, if you ask them, even if it's a little awkward or imperfect, you'll still get responses because they care about it. So I hope that answers your question. Of course, we've got great materials on that. And you're giving me an idea that I should probably do a webinar on this. Okay, so I'm seeing another question here from Cho. So we are getting private reviews by asking for them. How do we encourage the positive ones to do a public review? Is it a follow-up or email or text? So I would like for you to be careful on that, Joe. If your audience is American, the FTC has actually made some strong rulings against review gating, which is what this feels like. So, hey, if your customer is happy, send them on a third-party website versus those that are not happy, don't. Unfortunately, doing that is illegal and passable for a fine. Instead, I would say encourage everybody to leave you a third-party review. Now, a platform like ours, we actually allow people to copy and paste what they wrote for you in their first-party review to you, so they can just easily put it on the next website. So I would recommend be democratic, right? This is a great time for you to go ahead and say, okay, I'm being vulnerable, I'm asking for feedback, and then take that opportunity for those less than good reviews to be an opportunity to show your public and show your potential customers how you actually handle those with grace, dignity, and poise. So I hope that answers your question. Okay, so I see another question here from Enos. So what are the major strategy differences between B2C review generation and B2B review generation? I love that question. There's one thing in common between the two. is that you're asking people. You don't ask to an entire building how they feel, right? You're asking a human being how they're feeling about you. So I would approach it the same way. On a B2B side, if you're asking for first party first party feedback, this is where you can even go a little bit deeper and ask about specific aspects of the business. So when we conduct surveys, we ask more questions than just the NPS question. We ask if you have a magic wand, right? If you had a magic wand and could change or add or remove anything, what would you do? That's a great question to ask because it puts people in the mindset of, oh, okay, so if I could have this do anything that I want, what would I want it to do as well? And that helps you get into their psyche. I hope that answers your question. Emily has a question here. Do you typically ask the NPS question in the same email message as the review request? Sorry if you already said that. You know what? No, I would do one or the other. You can have them in a chain where you ask for NPS, you can ask for reviews, but remember what I was talking about during the presentation where the NPS feedback component is looking at the overall relationship. Star ratings is point in time on a specific interaction. Hopefully that sort of helps you set that in. If you want to send a rating review right immediately after an interaction, it will be specific to that interaction. If you're sending overall how they're feeling about the business, that's the first party review, that's the sentiment, that's the emotional equity that you're building in the relationship. Okay, Sergio, can you talk about the use of NPS to guide you for requests for reviews? That's a good question. I'm not sure I understand it, but if I'm just going to guess what you mean here is your NPS question will reveal what you need to work on as a business. And you use that to address those points. When it comes to reviews for third-party websites, this is you want people to talk about what it's like to interact with you in a public manner. So it's a little bit different. You know what? I'll noodle on that question, and I might just answer that as a blog, but thank you for that. Okay, Zane has a question here. So any tips, advice for convincing a client to overcome their hesitation and make asking reviews a part of their internal everyday process with customers? Wow. Yeah. Okay. Totally with you on that one, Zane. So denial is not just a river in Egypt, and I'm sorry for that, but people, if they're unhappy, they will talk about the business regardless. Being in the know is the first, so I grew up when G.I. Joe and Gem and the Holograms and Transformers was on TV when I came back from school. And at 4 o'clock, G.I. Joe would say it, knowing is half the battle. First, solicit first-party reviews to just get that first influx of feedback. If you think it's going to be bad, ask up front and then put in place a way to mitigate, manage, and apply these changes. I think that that's the best way to do with it. And once you feel your business has hit a point where, okay, you know what, we feel good. We feel that we've done what we can to address the irritants, then you can go ahead and go more public. But I think just taking this opportunity as, okay, you can choose not to know, but it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. So acknowledge it, take it in, right? Act on it, think about it, and then apply it, and then go forward. I hope that that helps you, Zane. All right. So Eunice had another question. What do you think of asking the same person to leave reviews on multiple platforms? How would it affect online reputation? So full disclosure, I'm not sure that that's a detrimental thing, but I feel like the way you're asking it could be. I think that if you have someone leave reviews across multiple platforms, I don't think it's a bad thing. If they're willing to do that for you, I just wouldn't ask them to do it all at the same time. I would stagger and prioritize. Usually you'll have 1 or 2 third-party websites that really matter for your business. Focus on those. I mean, you could try and boil the ocean and get reviews everywhere, but the reality is that there are diminishing returns. There are dominant players out there that have a big impact in your business, and then there are the others. Focus on where you get the most traffic. This is where your analytics would come into play. This is where, seeing the results of choosing carefully. Maybe you can even time box and say, okay, first wave, we'll do this website and see if this has an impact for us. Next wave, we'll do this next website. And then you just test it. So hopefully that answers your question. Okay, so Lon says, I'm at the point of needing a domain host and affordable marketing. Is there a combination you suggest? You know what? You and I can talk about it privately. I'm not going to do any recommendations or endorsement here, but happy to see that you're at that point. All right, can you talk about the automations around sending follow-up requests that are in the platform? Great question, Sho. So we have workflows. You can set up logic. It's very visual. You basically have a start point and end point, and then you have a flow. And that's set up. You can put in timing to it so that it's not happening all at the same time, and it can be conditional. You know what? This might actually just be worthy of giving you a demo of the platform. All right. Zane, any tips for helping older technophobic businesses owner realize the need benefit of using GatherUp? Goodness gracious. Yes. A lot of brick and mortar businesses, they're not technophobic. It's just not core to their life, right? They're passionate about saving lives or, delivering exceptional service, delivering great food. Technology might not be a part of it. Don't show it as being a piece of technology. Show it as a tool for them to be better at their services, at getting feedback so that they can excel at what they do and improve themselves. So it's almost like having an advisor or a strategist. So especially if, you're an agency, it's always harder to get foot traffic in a place when people are not happy with the service. Position yourself as an advisor to say, I'll help you improve your business so that you get more traffic at the end because you'll be listening to your customers. So show this more as a listening tool than a technology tool. Focus on the outcomes, not the tool itself. All right. Wow, everybody, we just hit the hours. We've got 2 minutes left. Oh, I got Crystal here that just snuck in another one, and I see a hand raised. I'm very sorry. I just saw your hand raised there, Cho, but you've asked a few questions already. Maybe you figured that out through the chat. But Crystal, okay, Crystal. How can you make a case for Google to take down a negative review where a customer is making accusations that are not true of the business? I put in a report and request into Google and it was denied. What do you require to make a strong case when it was a customer false narrative against the word of a small business? So this is the challenge of being present online, is this can happen. I saw a really good video from Sterling Sky actually on talking about this. Bring as much evidence as you can, right? Plead your case. I know it's not fair, but then how you handle that review online in the Google review, that also will say a lot. And I don't know. So I understand that it's frustrating to have a negative review, but if it's one negative review in a sea of positive reviews, I think that says a lot more about the reviewer than the business. But how you respond to it is really important. Crystal, you know what? I'm going to make a note to see if I can find that video for you, and I'll email it to you probably this afternoon, if that's okay with you. And hopefully that can help you. All right. Thanks, everybody. This was an amazing session. If you have more questions, you can totally contact me. My email is mel.atia@bytraject.com. You can also find me on LinkedIn. I'm happy to chat with you anytime about all things reputation management. I appreciate every one of you that stayed till the very end. Have a fantastic day and have a happy Halloween. And I will see you next month for another great topic. Thanks, everyone.